Jeremy Greene was outside at the time of the crash.
I was right under it, and I saw two planes charging, and then I looked up and I saw a big thing of fire.
What did you feel?
I just ran to the fence where everybody else was.
Walter Chain was among the first on the scene, barely able to look for survivors through the thick, blinding smoke.
I stumbled upon the one body. I thought it was a doll. It looked like a little doll. They couldn't even recognize the skin. It was still burning. I took my shirt off, put it over, put the flames out.
School will be closed tomorrow as teachers and students try to come to grips with what they experienced on this long April afternoon. I'm Suzanne LaFranchi, Channel 6 Action News in Lower Merion.
Now, the wreckage of Senator Heinz's plane are directly behind me, and I'll remind you that I'm standing in front of the Marion School on Bala Avenue. The wreckage of the plane right under what is left of that charred pine tree, which apparently took the direct hit of that fiery debris falling on it and setting it on fire, and that's where the two children were hit as well. The wreckage of the helicopter fell directly behind the school, and one large chunk of the chopper came within 10 feet of hitting the school. As you said a few minutes ago, Jim, it is a miracle because neither aircraft actually hit the school building. If they had, the death toll could have been much higher than 7. I'm Rob Jennings, live on the Action Cam in Lower Merion.
Rob, don't go away for a second while we bring our viewers up to date on why this all happened, and then I want to ask you a question. Apparently, there was a landing gear problem with the twin-engine plane, and there was an attempt made by the pilot of the helicopter to fly under the fixed-wing aircraft to get a look at the landing gear so as to notify the pilot what it is that he was dealing with on the Heinz plane. Now, I heard you talking to Mark Howard, Rob, on our earlier broadcast about conversations that we had earlier this afternoon with two experts, an aviation attorney and a commercial airline pilot, who both suggested that it was an inappropriate thing to do to try to get this visual inspection, that it was unsafe and something that simply wasn't done. I'm not sure if you heard, Rob, a conversation that I had with a former supervisor at the control tower at Philadelphia International Airport who said it was an appropriate thing to do. It probably was coordinated by the tower at Philadelphia International, and something that is not unusual, that it should have gone all right.
The questions that you raise will be answered, of course, because the investigation is just now getting underway. And if you were listening earlier this afternoon, I was talking to a spokesman for the NTSB who just arrived on the scene. He won't answer any questions regarding that. He won't speculate either way on whether it's appropriate or inappropriate. But the commercial jet pilot that you were referring to a moment ago told me that that is not done, that it is safer for the pilot, if he is experiencing a landing gear difficulty, to go to an airport and let flight controllers inside the tower do what they call a visual inspection on a flyby. That is, the plane flies right by the tower and they make a visual inspection of which parts of the landing gear are up and which ones are not. So those are questions which will be answered, hopefully, as this investigation continues.
Thank you, Rob. Now let's switch live from Rob Jennings at the crash site to Action News reporter David Henry at LANKENAU Hospital. And David, it is our understanding that some of the victims, some of the bodies have been brought to LANKENAU just a little while ago.
Yes, Jim, it was just a short while ago that the bodies of the 3 victims who were in the plane were brought here to LANKENAU Hospital. There you see the remains of Senator John Heinz being brought to the hospital in that police wagon. Senator John Heinz among the 3 victims in the plane. All 3 were brought here to LANKENAU Hospital just a short while ago. 2 victims have been taken to Bryn Mawr Hospital, and we have no word yet on the remaining 2 victims. However, I just spoke to 3 members of Senator Heinz' staff who are here at LANKENAU Hospital. They have the grim task of helping to identify the remains. They are waiting for the Philadelphia medical examiner to arrive. He is expected at any moment, and they will then begin the grim task of identifying the remains. Now, as for Mrs. Heinz, we are told that she was in Washington at the time of the accident. His aides who are here now are not sure whether or not she will be coming to the hospital to help claim the remains, but that all remains to be seen tonight. This is David Henry reporting live on the Action Cam from LANKENAU Hospital. Jim?
All right, David. Only 2 of those injured in the crash today remain in the hospital at this hour. 8-year-old David Rutenberg of Wynwood is at Crozier Chester in critical condition with burns over 30 to 35% of his body. Also hospitalized is 48-year-old John Fowler, the chief custodian at Marion Elementary. At LANKENAU Hospital, he told reporters that he was inside the school when he heard the explosion.
We went out the back door. It's the lower level back door, and the remains of the helicopter was on fire there, and there was popping noises as liquids and whatnot were going off, exploding, burning. I saw 2 children who appeared to be down on the hillside to the left, about 50 feet, 60 feet away from the helicopter.
Fowler is in satisfactory condition with a burned hand and will probably be released tomorrow. Let's go live now to Action News reporter Dan Quaya, who is at Crozier Chester Burn Center in Upland. And Dan, we just said 8-year-old David Rutenberg is there. He is badly burned. What is the latest that you have?
Well, Jim, he remains in critical condition. He underwent some surgery, 3.5 hours of surgery for what we understand from family, friends, and also from a nurse here at the hospital, that he underwent a tracheostomy because he was having problems with breathing. That's where they cut a hole in your throat to help you breathe. He is now in the burn unit, where I understand doctors are trying to stabilize him in the burn facility here in critical condition after 3.5 hours of surgery. A family friend indicates to us that the father is a neurologist, Dr. Gerald Rutenberg, and his mother, Rebecca, and 2 other children, Amy and Adam, 13 and 10 years old, remain isolated in the family room at the burn unit, where they are hoping and praying that the child is able to come through. He was a little boy that was reported running through the hallways with his clothes on fire before school officials were able to grab him and turn the fire out of his clothes. He was rushed here to Crozier Chester. He remains in critical condition as doctors attempt to save his life. I'm Dan Quayle, live on the Action Cam.
Thank you, Dan. Now let's switch live back to the crash site in Lower Merion, where Action News reporter Rick Williams has been talking to people all over that neighborhood. Rick, what do you have?
Well, Jim, parents are certainly holding their children a little tighter tonight in the wake of what happened. Other families are just coming home to witness the devastation, a devastation that for many residents here was a dangerously close call. Steve Halpern has part of a landing gear in his backyard. He also has quite a bit of damage to his roof. But the important thing is, he says, no one in his household was hurt.
I don't care about the damage as long as nobody got hurt here. The damage can be fixed.
Various residents in this community have bits and pieces of wreckage in their yards, and township police are keeping watch to make sure souvenir hunters stay away. And then there are those neighbors who are simply stunned by the tragedy and the fact that it hit so close to home.
I feel sorry for the families, and I do truly feel sorry for Senator Heinz and his family, because he was a great man.
Had tears in my eyes, too, as I saw the parents grabbing the children and hugging them. I could identify with the emotions, being a parent myself.
So obviously this tragedy has shaken up everyone in this neighborhood, both adults and children, trying to come to grips with a tragedy that before today everyone thought was just unthinkable. I'm Rick Williams reporting live on the Action Cam from Lower Merion Township. Jim, back to you.
Thank you, Rick. The crash at Marion Elementary School today robbed the Republican Party of one of its brightest stars. Senator John Heinz had represented Pennsylvania in Washington since the year 1971, when he won a special election to Congress, and then he moved to the Senate in 1976 by defeating Bill Greene. Heinz, an heir to the H.J. Heinz fortune, was one of the Senate's wealthiest men, but he tried to distance himself from his background. He concentrated on issues involving health care, the elderly, and the ailing steel industry. As a moderate Republican, he often took views opposing the Reagan and Bush administrations. Against Defense Department wishes, he recently pushed a bill to prohibit 2 parents from serving in the Persian Gulf War zone.
This would protect children against the loss of both of their parents or their only single parent by giving that parent or both parents the option of not having to serve. Of course you are. How are you?
Heinz won re-election twice, most recently in 1988 when he defeated Joe Vignola in a landslide. Some observers saw Heinz as a potential candidate for governor, others as possible presidential material. Heinz was heavily involved in efforts to save the Philadelphia Navy Yard, making that visit just last month. Just yesterday, Heinz was talking up mass transit, driving a bus into Pittsburgh, the transit agency maintenance yard. In what would be his final public appearance, Heinz was in Williamsport this morning talking about highway funding with his central Pennsylvania constituents. After this appearance, the senator boarded his plane for Philadelphia. Henry John Heinz III is survived by his wife Teresa and 3 sons. The news of today's tragedy rocked the GREENE Federal Building in Center City, Philadelphia, where Heinz's regional office was headquartered. Grief-stricken staffers declined to comment on camera. The flag outside the building was lowered to half-staff and will remain there as a visible sign of the loss. The news of Senator Heinz's death reverberated from his office throughout the political community. President Bush said the people of Pennsylvania have lost a great leader and the nation has lost a great senator. Fellow Pennsylvania Senator Arlen Specter said he was shocked by the tragedy, saying Heinz was more than a colleague. He was a close personal friend. Delaware Senator Joseph Biden called Heinz a man of unlimited promise and said his heart goes out to the entire Heinz family. Congressman Bill Gray of Philadelphia remembered Heinz as a man who worked tirelessly for the good citizens of Pennsylvania. And Attorney General Dick Thornburg, a fellow Pittsburgh native and former governor, called Heinz's passing a deep personal loss. Today's tragedy stunned Pennsylvania's political establishment at the state capitol. We get that story from Harrisburg correspondent FLORA Posteraro.
Flags at the state capitol were lowered to half-staff hours after the tragedy occurred. Governor Robert Casey ordered flags at all state buildings be flown at half-staff in honor of U.S. Senator John Heinz. The longtime Republican and Pittsburgh native had made his political mark in the state. Governor Casey called him a distinguished and dedicated son of Pennsylvania.
Senator Heinz built a long and honored career of service to the people of our state and our nation. We will miss his leadership in the United States Senate.
State Auditor General Barbara Hafer remembered the senator as her political mentor. Hafer says it was Heinz who gave her the push to run for office.
And it'll be a tremendous loss, not just because he was a great politician, a great leader. The Heinz family has meant so much to Western Pennsylvania, and the nation. John Heinz was someone that could walk with kings and just regular people too. So it'll be a tragic loss for all of us.
It's now up to the governor to name a successor. Casey could very well appoint himself, which does not require Senate confirmation. The replacement would serve until a special election is held. The victor would then finish off Senator Heinz's unexpired term. Governor Casey has given no indication who the senator's replacement might be. It's likely that won't be revealed until Senator Heinz is laid to rest. I'm FLORA Posteraro, Channel 6 Action News at the state capitol.
So let us recap what happened today. U.S. Senator John Heinz was among 7 people killed early this afternoon in Lower Merion Township. Heinz's plane crashed with a Sun Company helicopter over the grounds of the Merion Elementary School on Bowman Avenue. The plane was experiencing problems with its landing gear, and the pilot of the helicopter was attempting a visual inspection. For some reason, the 2 aircraft came into contact and crashed. Heinz and 2 pilots were killed in the plane, 2 pilots in the chopper were killed, and 2 6-year-old girls in the playground of the school were killed by falling debris. 5 other people were injured, but only 2 were still in the hospital. 8-year-old David Rutenberg of Wynwood is in critical condition at Crozier Chester with burns over 35% of his body. School custodian John Fowler, age 48, is in satisfactory condition at LANKENAU. He's okay. It has been a terrible day at this elementary